How you doing, guys? Malik over at Modern Pawn. Today we're going to talk about suppressors and how to take care of them. Uh, First off, I would separate suppressors into two main categories: centerfire and rimfire. Rimfire suppressors need a lot more attention and cleaning and maintenance than a centerfire suppressor will need. So we're going to cover centerfire suppressors first, then we'll get to the rimfire. This right here, guys, is a Gemtech G5T titanium fast attach suppressor. If you happen to have lost your manual that came with your suppressor, or your suppressor didn't come with the manual, generally most suppressors are going to recommend little to no cleaning. I know that sounds weird. Centerfire suppressors don't need a lot of maintenance. The internal baffles basically have a self-cleaning property to them. The front half of the suppressor, where the actual suppression takes place, doesn't technically have anything touching the suppressor. When the bullet goes through the can, it like jumps the hoops. It flies through the baffles without touching them. If it's touching the baffles, then you'll have other problems. It's called baffle striking. So what happens with this, the only thing that it gets dirty in here is powder residue. You don't get any real copper fouling, and you shouldn't be getting any lead fouling unless you're shooting rimfire through the suppressor. So the powder fouling isn't that big of a deal, the carbon issue from the burnt powder that builds up in here, because generally what happens is over time the concussion of the bullet going through and the powder expanding in there, well, it'll end up breaking up that powder over time. Now, if for whatever reason your can does need to be cleaned, say you dropped it in the mud, okay, and it really got a whole bunch of junk in there, you need to clean it. Obviously, first thing you want to do is take it off the gun. With it off the gun, you're going to want to try to avoid sticking anything inside the baffle stack, okay? This suppressor has a fast attach system that does need periodic maintenance, let's put it that way. When you're cleaning the suppressor, you're generally going to want to just use a solvent bath of some sort. I gave you a list here of some stuff that you can use to clean your suppressor. If it got wet, if it got really dirty and you need to like wash it out, you can wash it out with water. Soap and water will work just fine. But after you wash it out with water, you want to go back and use some non-water based solvent to drive out any moisture from the suppressor. Titanium's not as big a deal, but there are some stainless steel cans that may have who knows what kind of stainless steel components inside them. WD-40, diesel, CLP, and a 3-to-1 mixture of mineral spirits and automatic transmission fluid. All four of these work real well. I would say WD-40 is the most readily available. You can just give it a real good hose down inside and out with WD-40. Blow it out with some air and then maybe do it again. Make sure it drives out any of the moisture from the suppressor. Dropping it just into a small pan of diesel or a little bucket of diesel will work really well as well. That'll also help break up any of the carbon fouling on the suppressor. It won't get it really clean, but it'll help break it up. CLP works just fine, and the 3-to-1 mineral spirits automatic transmission fluid works real well as well. Works real well. The automatic transmission fluids has some detergents in it. Helps again clean the metal on the suppressor. If you're shooting some kind of really extra super dirty ammo and your can just seems to be getting filthy on the inside, the other thing that we can use is a foaming bore cleaner. What this stuff does is it kind of scrubs the metal and breaks up powder residue without actually having to physically scrub the metal. The rear part of this does have moving parts in it, and it has mating parts. The Flashhider mates to this rear component, and there is some moving parts inside here. So sometimes this foaming bore solution does real well. Basically all you do, you stand it up, shoot the foam in there, fill it up, let it sit there for a little bit, and then you're going to rinse it out the same way afterwards, going over one of these up at the top, either the WD-40 or the diesel, something like that. So you don't really need to scrub the baffle holes a whole lot. What you're going to want to do is try and avoid that, generally speaking, because you don't want to get like a piece of a brush to break off inside the suppressor. Then you got all kinds of problems. That's going to be a little labyrinth of baffles inside there that it's going to be real hard to get anything that gets stuck in there out. So avoid using like a bore brush to get all the way through the suppressor. It's not necessary. The baffle system is partially self-cleaning on almost every type of suppressor. The other thing that may need to be done from time to time is the connection, the mating of the Flashhider to the fast attach system on the can. Sometimes this gets real built up with carbon, and the male and the female parts, they get kind of tight, and like it'll feel like this doesn't want to go on there, and then when you go to push down on it, it's like, oh my god, it's like full of gunk. It can happen. What I suggest from this point is brass bristle brush, no wire, no steel bristle brush. Take a brass bristled brush and some kind of solvent and go in here and knock all the crap off these lugs. Get this guy a little cleaner, and you can do the same thing to the inside back here. They look like two-sided toothbrushes, but these are bronze bristles or brass bristles. You can go in here and kind of break up any junk that's in the back of this fast attach system. Clean it out, spray it out with one of your cleaners, your WD-40 or diesel. After you've done that, wipe it down and use a high temperature synthetic grease, or white lithium grease works pretty well. You can put some white lithium grease in here so that it just helps lubricate this connection point. That's all I've listed is probably more maintenance than I've done on any of my cans. They really don't need much service, guys, when you're running Centerfire cans. Anytime, guys, you're running a direct thread-on suppressor, I always recommend a little dab of anti-seize on the threads. A little dab of anti-seize on the threads will go a long way. It basically is like a lubricant that prevents galling and seizing of threads, and that's exactly what we're trying to do here. We're trying to prevent the threads from galling or seizing from the suppressor to the end of the barrel. It's just a little dab of this stuff, goes a long way. It's kind of a silver color. It makes a little bit of a mess. If you get it on your fingers, it'll be there for a couple hours, and it's like looks like silver paint. Anti-seize is very important for suppressors that get taken on and off. Even if you don't take it on and off, every time you do any kind of rifle maintenance, little dab of anti-seize back on the direct threads, it's going to go a long way, guys.